Go. We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, welcome everyone to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani, and it is Tuesday morning. Glad to have you with us at the top of the week. We weren't here yesterday because we had a huge weekend and we needed a little bit of time to rest and recuperate and get back into the swing of things, but we're glad that you're with us this morning. So listen, guys, we want you to chime in. Let us know where you're calling from, where you're tuning in from, whether it be in the United States or anywhere around the world. We're just glad to have you with us this morning. And make sure you take the time to like, share, and subscribe. Share this with your community, because when you do that, it allows them to receive what you typically get on a daily basis. And don't you want to help your brothers and your sisters and those in your community strive in their particular relationship? If so, all you have to do is click a button. It's really simple. Listen, we had an amazing weekend. It was the Audacity of Marriage live retreat here in Atlanta, Georgia. We had couples from different parts of the country come down, pretty much strangers to one another, but by the time the weekend was over, it was an incredible experience for each and every one of them. We just want to give you a quick highlight of what that weekend was about. So what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'll play that video. Check this out. Let's talk about it.
Welcome back, everybody. You are watching the Couples Academy.
Fighting for their relationships.
This is game night, so we're doing all types of activities where they get to connect and get to know each other, win some prizes, remind themselves of why they fell in love with each other.
What he said.
It's been 33 years of our life. That being said, I'm gonna give you something.
Me?
You are my wife.
At the bottom, you have the solid ground. And you got this rock obstacle in front of you that you gotta overcome. And together, we came together and did that.
I love journeys with my wife. You know, we've done a lot of things. But I related this to our marriage as it being challenging. It was so challenging. You would think, you know, this is not fun.
Come on.
But it was challenging,
Yeah.
and that's where it is in marriage, is challenging, and that's where really the best comes out you. That's where you know what you got when it gets challenging.
One.
That's right, guys. Had an amazing time. Just turn that down a little bit. Had an amazing time. I tell you, let me show you this picture. This was the first night. This was our social. That was an opportunity for them all to get together and connect. And what's interesting, a lot of times people like to test the water. They're not sure if they can be open and transparent. But people came out the gate literally sharing their stuff. And I think what that did was it created a great bond. it created a safe environment for people to be open. And I think people realize, you know what? Wow, we're not the only ones that have situations that we're going through. We all have something, right? And what happens is bonds are formed, relationships are established because people feel like they could just keep it real. And so from that evening into the next day, we did the live show. Many of you were a part of that, so that was a great experience. Then we had some powerful workshops, and then came back to our retreat center, the Eden House, and had game night and great food and great conversation, and then climbed a mountain. That's right, guys. We climbed a mountain. I think that was the most pivotal and transformational portion of the entire retreat. And so there are things that you learn in a classroom when someone's giving you instruction and you're taking notes, but then there's something powerful about experiences. There are lessons that you gain from these experiences. And I tell you, people's relationships really took a shift and a pivot in a positive direction as a result of overcoming adversity. And oftentimes when we face adversity, many of us break, we fold, we collapse, we want to throw in the towel, call it quits, give up because we can't take it, because we like the easy road, we like the easy path. But when there's something on the inside of you that is determined to overcome your challenges, no matter what the adversity may be, you will do it. And these couples experienced it together. They encouraged each other, they prayed for each other, they fought for each other, some fought with each other, but yet and still they made it to the top of that mountain and they were victorious. And everything, guys, everything is a metaphor for life. Right? So that's why we take people through these processes, because they gain something uniquely different from that experience. And so listen, we have another one coming up. It is not too early to register. You're going to be seeing advertisements about the one in October and the one in December. These will probably be the last two that we do. And then we're going to retire from doing retreats, because our main focus is really intensives and group intensives. So I want to just honor all of those who came out and had a great time with you. But listen, we're going to jump into the conversation. On last week, we were talking about, how to survive a D- marriage, and we want to continue in that. And so we're talking about how to increase your marriage score. Now, if you remember, we were talking about A, B, C, D. Now, I know if you have children today, the score system may be different, but if we go back to the basics, an A, a B, a C, a D, what letter grade would you give your relationship? Okay, hopefully it's not a D-. If it is, we're going to tell you how to make a quantum leap up to a higher grade. But another way of looking at this, and we've talked about this before, if you had to grade or rate or rank your relationship on a scale of 1 to 10, right? 1 being the worst, horrible, we have no connection, no communication, we hate each other, we're adversaries in this relationship. Or 10, we have a phenomenal relationship. It can't get any better than this. We are coasting, we are enjoying life, we are on a high. How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? Now, let's differentiate the two, because we've always told you that there's the marriage and there is the relationship. So as a quick recap, your marriage represents your partnership. That is how you generate income for the household. That's how you manage the finances in the home. That is the delegation of responsibility. That is cooking, cleaning, the daily practical, tactical, dutiful responsibilities of living life together, right? We're talking management. We're talking business. We're talking how we make lifestyle work and how each of us show up in that space. And so it requires that you have certain skill sets. You got to cook, right? You got to clean. You got to fix things around the house. You got to make money. You got to manage money. You got to pay bills. You got to plan for the future. Like, that is what that is. That is your partnership within the realm of your marriage. How would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10? Now, some of you are doing phenomenally well in that space. Beautiful home, beautiful neighborhood, kids in a great school, money in the bank, all is well. Some of you on the struggle bus, a significant struggle bus. And so maybe your rating wouldn't be as high. But then we have the relationship, which speaks to your companionship, right? So we're talking about what? Effective communication, the blending of personalities, making sure you're in sync with one another, knowing how to meet each other's emotional needs, knowing how to speak each other's love language, sexual fulfillment. It's the heartfelt connection between two people, right? That is your companionship. Not only do you love your spouse, but you like your spouse. How would you rate your relationship on a scale of 1 to 10? It's a 1. We are in a bad space. We don't talk. We don't like each other. We never eat together. We have separate lives. We just go half on bills, half on babies, half on life. Or we are so connected. We love quality time. We have our rituals. We have our hobbies. We have all the things that make us work. How would you rate yourself? So you should have 2 scores here, 2 scores here, 2 numbers here. I want you to write those down, and then I want you to have that conversation with your spouse. I want you to tell me, or tell your spouse actually, where you see each other and have a conversation about it, right? Because you're walking in 2 different journeys. And so listen, guys, we have a lot more. We're going to go into some deep stuff on the other side of this break. So let us know where you're calling from. We want to honor you on the other side. See you in just a second. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Couples Academy is expanding its team to meet the growing demand of people in need of help around the world. So if you're a trained, licensed, or certified expert in marriage enrichment, infidelity recovery, sex therapy, life coaching, cognitive behavioral therapy, divorce mediation, financial coaching, or family therapy, contact us today. All right, guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Listen, I just want to welcome all of our viewers and our listeners. But as I do, I want you to drop in the comment box. I want you to put relationship and put your number, then put marriage and put your number. I'm just curious where we are as a community because it gives us insight on what we need to do. But listen, good morning, JD. Good morning, D, Carol, Ronald, Ralph, Debbie. Good to see you. Gonzalez, my brother. We had a great time this weekend, didn't we? LaShawn LaCheryl. And then we have Debbie. Debbie, listen, good morning. I know you're on vacation in South Carolina. You will be coming down in just a few days for your intensive. You turn that down just a little bit. And we're excited to have you for some transformation. Jessica, good morning. Tyrone, my brother. Kathy, my sister. Team McCoy in the building. Had a great time. It was Tyrone who said, you know, we were on that mountain and it was flat at the bottom and rough at the top. You can bring that down. And so listen, Angie, Angela, Janice, all of you, we welcome you. We welcome you to the show. I want to see what your numbers are, what your ranks are as we continue. But listen, I want to jump right in. Because on Friday, I just want to pick up a slide that we briefly mentioned, and I want to go over it again. We were talking about the common reasons to stay in an unhappy marriage. Some people want to cut and run, throw in the towel, and just divorce. But there are some reasons why people stay. So number one, obviously for the kids, that is the most reported reason. There's a fear of financial insecurity, not wanting to be alone. There's a stigma of divorce, not wanting to start over, and wanting to avoid hassle. These are the reasons. And listen, they're legitimate reasons, right? As we say all the time, people, aren't really looking for a reason to leave. You've given them plenty reasons to leave. They're looking for a reason to stay. And oftentimes these are some of the reasons to stay in the meantime. They're not the most ideal reason, but if it keeps you tied in, locked in to that relationship while you begin to work on things, then so be it. Now, what if you are in a disastrous situation, right? And it seems like there's no hope for your future. All right, so we're going to go here. We see Jamila says that the marriage is an 8, okay? The relationship is a 2. That's a great indication of where you are. Debbie says the relationship is a 6, maybe 7. All right, that's okay. And the marriage is a 9. That's phenomenal. Then we have I love Derek 22. Okay. The relationship and the marriage is a 1. This is our first year and it's rough. let me tell you something. That first year could be a doozy. I often ask the question, well, how long were you together before you got married? Did you go to premarital counseling? Did you have a long distance relationship? Did you live close? You don't have to answer these questions. These are just rhetorical questions to think about. Did you spend enough time with each other in close proximity to that person before you got married? I would be interested in finding those things out. Then we have favor. The marriage is a 1. All right, so how do we go from 1 to 10? You know, these are some of the things that we're talking about this morning. So here's a process, right? I want to read this to you because I think this is important. I'm in a bad space. However, divorce is not on the table. It's not an option. We're not going in that space. What do I do in the meantime to go from worst to bad, bad to average, average to good, good to great? Well, there's something called detachment. Detachment to save the marriage. The marriage isn't working, but you're not ready to leave. And so detachment is a decision to create an amicable home despite the struggle in the relationship. Detachment is letting someone be who they are while protecting yourself from their consequences. Often this concept is associated with addictions, but it also helps to create distance from certain behaviors that are destructive. So we're talking about really D-F relationships where there's hostility, where there is a complete breakdown of everything. You feel like your partner is your enemy, but you're not ready to leave, but you have to protect you from your partner or protect yourself from the consequences of your partner's behavior. So there's this detachment. Think about it. It's an intentional detachment because many of us are detached anyway. We talk about how there's an emotional disconnect. We're no longer connected to one another. We're connected to other things. This is now not detachment by default because things aren't going well. It's detachment by design. So this would be more of an example of, but not quite, an in-house separation, if you will. And oftentimes the purpose of that is to give yourself your own space so that you can breathe, so that you can gain a sense of normalcy, so that you can collect your thoughts, you can manage your emotions, you can set up a space that is healthy and conducive for your healing, for your personal growth. But then you also have times when you connect with your partner in a safe environment for things to go well. So some of the reasons for detachment, and number one, we were talking about abuse, drinking or drug use. I mean, that's a very real thing. People who have addictions, it does have an impact on the relationship. It does have an impact on the children. And oftentimes they are forced to face the consequences of that. We know that when it comes to alcohol and drug abuse, also, there are emotions attached to that. A lot of times it's coupled with anger. And when a person is angry, they begin to punish everyone around them, everyone in their circumference, because they haven't managed their emotions well. And so constantly dealing with that type of thing requires, for one party, the need to detach. Then we have verbal abuse or criticism. We've been talking about verbal assassins. We wrote in the book, The Audacity of Marriage, Chapter 2, Help My Mouth is Killing My Marriage. Listen, I was a verbal assassin. Many of you were verbal assassins, but it manifests and shows up in different ways. Some are very critical. Some are very judgmental. Some will call you out your name. Some will cuss you from top to bottom. I mean, it can get bad. We're talking about verbal, emotional, mental, psychological abuse when I literally break you down. You understand what I'm saying? And so when this happens, you've got to protect yourself from the crazy. So detaching would be helpful in that particular space. Then we have annoying habits or problems that you cannot resolve, behaviors that you want to change, and then aggressive behavior. Now, aggressive behavior, I would align that with being physical. There's a lot of couples who really go through a lot of domestic violence in their relationship, and it's become normal. In fact, they've normalized it because it's just what they do. Now, interestingly enough, we don't support, we don't believe, and we condemn that type of behavior. We don't condemn the person, but we condemn the behavior. But because of societal norms, if you will, it is socially more I don't want to say acceptable. It's less severe or this less of a punishment or less of a stigma if it is the woman hitting a man than if it's a man hitting a woman. If a man hits a woman, you ain't no man. How dare you? You're probably going to go to jail. You will suffer consequences oftentimes if the woman is not so fearful, because that's another issue. Some women are so fearful that they're scared to tell. They're scared to call the police. They're scared to do those things. But yet there's those other situations where they will call. They will do those things. But then you have women who will go like, I'm talking like, I mean, the professional, like it's crazy. And these dudes sit there and suffer and deal with it, and it's destructive. In those particular situations, you have to learn how to detach. All right, guys, we got another segment. We're gonna go deeper into this, and we're gonna take our time with this, and I wanna read some of your comments on the other side of this break. Be right back. Hey guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. I'm gonna dive right into some of these comments. Marissa from the Bahamas, good to see you, sis. Then we have, who do we have? Favor from Kenya. Nairobi. I've gone to Nairobi and Nakuru, Kenya, and had an amazing time. I tell you, whew, to be there, I felt like I was in heaven. The architecture, the landscapes, the people, it was amazing. All right, Jamila says, the marriage is innate, the relationship is a 2. You know, it's interesting. Most people would rate or rank their marriage higher than their relationship. And I get it, I understand that, because like at the end of the day, we not going homeless, right? So we gotta pay our bills. You know, we have to raise these kids. So usually we lean in heavier to the marriage than we do the relationship. That's very typical. Debbie says the relationship is a 6, the marriage, or maybe a 7. The marriage is a 9. Then we have, this is relationship and marriage equals 1. This is our first year and it's rough. I think I may have read that. Oh, okay. So marriage 7, Gonzalez. The relationship was a 1, but after the retreat, it's a 5. Look at that quantum leap. It was a 1 before this weekend, and they made a quantum leap forward to a 5. Guys, why are you trying to do this on your own? Doing it on your own will produce the same results, but when you do something different, you will get something different. Look at this. Marriage is a 7. Relationship had been a 2. We are now at a 7. Quantum leaps. Okay, they were at the retreat this weekend. All it takes is, listen, it doesn't even, when you make a quantum leap, it doesn't even require more effort. It doesn't. It just sometimes requires doing something different. And when you do something different, you pivot. Dee says the relationship is a 5 and the marriage is an 8. This is our 6th year. Of all the information that I've been reading, it says that a lot of times it takes a couple that long to realize that they need help, and we need help. Well, Dee, that is why we're here. Just set up a discovery call. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure this thing out so that we can give you what you need. All right, guys, we're talking about how to detach, the reasons why people detach. We're going to go to the next slide. I think, yeah, we just showed that. So now, what does detachment look like? Okay, number 1, it's treating your spouse as a kind stranger would. Now think about this. Some of you treat your spouse with contempt. Some of you treat your spouse with and we're going to do something on contempt. Actually, one of the clients just reached out to me 2 days ago and said, do you have anything on contempt? I said, I will this week. We're going to talk about that because that is one of the things that we do when we are just done. And so think about how you treat a stranger. You're kind, you're pleasant, right? You're accommodating, you show grace. If you could treat your spouse like a stranger, you will be treating them better than you actually treat them right now. And it's a decision, folks. Regardless of who they are and how they show up and the history and what they've done, you have a choice to make in terms of how you want to show up. And treating someone else better or healthy helps you. Now, check this out. There's a couple we were working with, and the husband was the offended, the wife was the unfaithful person. And when I tell you, he would go in on her. And it was, daily thing, several times a day. The level of toxicity in this relationship was on fleek. And I said, listen, let's do something different. How about for 7 days we do a challenge? I want you to love on your wife. I want you to give her grace. I want you to treat her well. I had the wife write down a wish list of all the things she wanted and how she wanted to be treated. And I made that Now, that's weird. You're saying, wait a minute. The person who's the offended one now has to accommodate the offender? Yes. And for 7 days, and he messed up the first week and struggled the second week. But by that third week, he went 3 weeks straight, and he loved her and bought her flowers and got her a massage and helped cook dinner and really created an environment for her. And I said, well, I know what it did for her, but what did it do for you? He said, oh my God, it was like miraculous. The fact that I changed my whole approach and attitude and disposition towards my wife. I wasn't as triggered. I felt more at peace. I felt more fulfilled. I felt more connected. So doing something positive for someone else made him feel positive and healthy within himself. Now, it may seem backwards, folks, but listen, we don't use conventional wisdom because it doesn't work. And so what we do is what works. And sometimes what works looks crazy. It seems backwards. It seems in reverse. But if it produces the results, that is ultimately what it's all about. So doing that, it really made a significant change in their relationship. Let's go to the next one. Number 2, what does detachment look like? Stop giving advice or trying to change the person. Think about it. The focus is the partner changing, and when you're going to get yourself together, and you need to do this and you need to do that, and now you're frustrated because they won't make the change. They feel trapped and controlled and manipulated and beat down, and because they can't change to the pace or to the expectation that you have for them, and both of you are frustrated, both of you are mad, both of you are disconnected. But if you take the focus off of the change that your partner needs to make by detaching yourself from that expectation and placing the focus on you and what changes you need to make, it actually will help. Then the next one, letting go of the small stuff. Don't we typically fight over the small things? Usually, to be honest with you folks, overwhelmingly, it is not the major issues that bring couples to counseling. It's the small things, but there's a bunch of small things, right? And because we don't handle these small things well, it accumulates, right? And then we have all these unresolved issues and all this pain and all this stuff. But a lot of this stuff, when we're in a good emotional space, we realize, oh, that's just so small and insignificant, but we just don't do it. So not sweating the small stuff allows you to detach yourself for your own personal healing. Then not commenting on their behavior. Some of us, think about it. If you ever watch the sport, you have the commentators on the side and they're commentating on everything. Oftentimes that's what we do. We are spectators in our spouse's lives. We're participating, but also spectating at the same time. And we always have a comment. We always have something to say. We always talking under our breath. We always have our commentary, which does not help us, let alone them. And it keeps us in a bitter, trapped, miserable state. And then the last thing is letting them make their your own choices. Listen, I can't control you at the end of the day. You gonna do what you gonna do regardless of me. And so when I detach myself from an expectation that you have to do it my way, it allows me to, in essence, focus on me. It keeps me from constantly being disappointed and takes me to a different place where I can begin to focus on other things for my healing. Now, we're talking about the purpose of detachment. For what purpose? To reattach in a better place. We're not saying detach in order to divorce. We're detaching to recommit ourselves to one another. So as I say, in order to go forward, you got to sometimes go back. In order to go up, you got to go down. In order to enter into your future, you got to go into your past. You got to go in the opposite direction of where you ultimately want to be, because that allows for the quantum leap. Guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. Hope you got something out of today. We're going deeper tomorrow, so stay tuned. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you tell your family, your friends, everybody, but most importantly, tell your spouse. Sit down in front of that computer, that tablet, or that phone, and let's get this thing. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. This is the Couples Academy show. Bye, guys.